Okay, today I have actually reverted my save to my broken save. Obviously, on PC, we can mess around with our saves a little bit more than we can on other platforms. And today I'm going to be looking back at my save that got a bit broken. And because I often go into the experimental branches and play around with the different systems, and that can break saves. And this particular save got a bit broken, but it had some interesting discoveries. And I want to explore the purple systems without really messing up my other save, because it will just flood my discovery list with systems that I'm probably not going to go to. And this is an example, really. This is a paradise planet on a giant paradise on one of the new purple system giants. And I am going to explore it. So let's get myself out of the way. And I just want to, first of all, just kind of get a feel for the new generation system. And that's probably what I'm mostly going to be looking at today. Because this is a very different form of terrain generation. And it will create some weird stuff. And it will create some less standard No Man's Sky terrain. There are some examples around, actually, if I can find some. Like this thing here, it's not really an example, but these floating islands in some places, here, this is an example. They've almost become like, let's go into photo mode for a second. They've almost become like saddle bags or something hanging on the side of a mountain. So there's like a huge gap here where the floating island is kind of sliding up the side of the mountain. And you wouldn't normally see that in other types of system. At least you wouldn't see it a lot. It's not something you'd see commonly. I don't think I could fly in that gap, but there's quite a few of them around. Wait, no, it just pushes me out. As you can see, there's another one here. So it's almost like a feature of this planet that it's got like gravity defying hanging bits off of the side of mountains. Some of them have trees and stuff on, and some of them don't. Like this one's got a couple of trees on it. And then what I found interesting was all of these places where we get this kind of standard floating island, like the old style one before we got the new style, is that quite often there are trees growing underneath them, which I never really thought about before. Not so many on this one, but I found like clumps of trees. And what's different about this particular planet, apart from those things, is you get wide open plains, and then you get some high mountains on the edges of the plain, so you can kind of just see the outline of the mountains here. This one over here looks quite interesting. It's quite high, so it's almost like mountain chains running along. Oops, didn't actually hit it. Mountain chains running along either side of huge valleys, which is another thing you'll find a lot on this particular planet. It's land. So it's a paradise planet, so we're not really going to get any environmental problems. The creatures changed totally since I discovered it. I discovered this on a stream a couple of weeks ago, and it had mechanical creatures, and they put in the patch notes that there were too many of them. They were spawning in too many planets. So clearly this wasn't supposed to. This was supposed to have normal creatures. And that's one of the reasons why we're seeing these discoveries where we then get a load of extinctions, because they're not really, those other things weren't really supposed to be here. So they're now showing as extinct, because I did I did discover them. They're in my discovery list, but it's recognizing that they're no longer here. It was doing that immediately, so there was always a potential issue, possibly hiding what should have been here. I'm going to see how long it takes me to get up this thing. Say get up to that peak up there, maybe. I'm going to go this way because there looks like a slightly more interesting route. Now, this planet does suffer a little bit from the patchy grass issue, and there are a couple of places where it's just straight out whole lines of grass, which to me just don't seem like it's supposed to be like that. I think there's issues with grass still. The other day, I'll see if I can test it now, but the other day I had a few problems with Exocraft not being able to drive in long grass. Let's put that one there. That's working at the moment. It was intermittent. Couldn't drive in long grass. I saved, reloaded, and I could. Oh, I should point out, because I'm not really going to settle here, and anybody's welcome to come and have a look at this planet. So the glyphs down in the bottom corner, but I'll read them out, are bird, moon, gek, ship, triangle, bird, rocket, scarab, tree, tent, bird. That's the words I use anyway. Everybody uses slightly different words. I want to get up there. Whoops, not down here. Oh, and the other thing to note while we're in photo mode is it's also a bioluminescent planet. So it's got lovely glowing grass that comes in patterns, which again is not rendering perfectly in photo mode. I've just got a patch there now. You saw it briefly. There's clearly some issues with grass. It's going to take a little while to get up here. Obviously I could have flown up, but I want to get a feeling for the scale. It's unlike the high mountain planets we used to get, because look, we've got huge vistas as opposed to more high mountains just on a narrow valley. We're getting above the grass line here. Steep to settle here? No, just about. A little bit. Doesn't quite like it. The new approach to shadows and specular highlights does change this game quite a bit in terms of its overall feel on every planet. So you do get a lot of people saying, oh, I really do feel like the terrain generation is different on the planet that isn't a purple system, and it's because it's being lit very differently. And also we got a load of new ground textures in Worlds Part 1, so like this is kind of an unusual thing to see. In previous terrain generation there's a huge swathe of relatively flat land here. Obviously it's gently climbing, but we used to see flat line on the very tall mountain planets, but it was often just little saddles between peaks. Sun coming up here, or going down probably. I don't know if it's actually consistent about which way the sun goes up and down, but it's kind of westish. So like this slightly darker lit area of grass, you can just see the shadows in the actual texture of the grass. It's very new. So So it looks lovely when it renders properly. But it doesn't always. It seems to have problems on flatter areas, which is the strange thing. Now, this isn't completely new kind of terrain. I've often kind of wandered up what I used to call, there were high mountain planets, and then there were quite rugged but gently rolling planets that had lots of heights that you wouldn't even notice they were very high unless you climbed up them and actually knew a way of measuring them, which we don't usually have. Some expeditions allowed us to, because they would ask you to get certain heights. So you could kind of have a little readout that would tell you how high you were. So, see, that's a very different vista. We didn't get that kind of vista before. Because it's a giant planet, it probably spaces things out a bit more as well. And of course, unless we force ourselves to, how often do we just wander around on foot on planets and really appreciate the way that the landscape is modelled? Not often. We're usually flying around looking for points of interest. And theoretically, there could be places on this planet that have bigger clumps of trees than others. I haven't found any areas yet that have a huge clump of trees, but it is theoretically possible. What's different here is that some of the people that have found jungle planets, I think the thing that seems to mark them out the most is they have large, smaller areas of the undergrowth, like the smaller bushes. They're a little bit larger and they feel like a bit more of a barrier, and you have to kind of walk through them side to side if you're avoiding them. And it gets a little bit, it feels more enclosed. See, this is where the rendering of the grass, so that's not too bad because it's not straight lines, it's kind of curved around, so this could be okay. But sometimes you'll just see it continue for long stretches in a straight line, and that doesn't seem intended. Patchiness in grass is fine. It's just, we're pattern recognizers. We can see these things very clearly if they look too artificial. Hey, yeah, this is a lovely planet. Good to see you again. I'm basically just exploring purple systems, and I've reverted to my broken save just so I don't fill up my I've got caught under here. This must be one of those saddles. No, it isn't. This is actually touching. How do I get around without resorting to flying or burrowing in? Sorry, what was I saying? Yeah, I've reverted to my broken save. Obviously on PC I can kind of mess around with my saves. Just because this had this discovery on it, and I'm going to try and come back here on my other save. So I've taken a note of the glyphs, but if you want to come and have a look at this place, then the glyphs are here. I did mention them earlier, so if you rewind, you'll hear me reading them out if you want it more convenient. But those are the glyphs, if you can see them on whatever resolution you're watching on at the moment. If you want me to pause on that for longer, just shout and I'll do that. I could theoretically try and zoom in for you. I need a little auto zoom extra thing on my OBS settings so I can just show glyphs I'm on. But I've got no interest in settling here long term, so it's just kind of a place I'm exploring. Other people are welcome to come and explore. But yeah, look at that vista there. Look, we're kind of on the, we can see the curvature of the of the clouds, and we can also see a kind of that, you see that stratification of that you get on gas giants. Just knocked my filter off. Hang on a second. Knocked my pop filter off. But we're so high now that we can see that pattern in the clouds. Let's go into photo that mode, and yeah, so it's quite misty. I might have to turn the mist lower. Yeah, cloud level, don't want to touch that really. It's fog density only 4%, but I think that just shows how far the distances are. Let's take that right down as well then. Yeah, that doesn't really do anything. It just adjusts the cloud above me, so there's no point doing that. I guess if we take a touch of bloom off, it might help. So we really are seeing probably beyond the render distance of the mountains now. And also, of course, if we put the sun down below, we're too high above to really properly see the bioluminescence of the grass, but we can see patches of it nearby. Do you think these bald rocky spots count towards the paradise quotient? Like, will a higher quotient paradise planet have lesser bald spots? I don't think so. I think these are technically a separate biome on a planet, and they're because a planet can have like a standard biome. It has a rocky high biome, an underwater biome, and I think there might be a kind of intermediate height one, but I'm not sure that's less obvious. There just seem to be some places where you seem to be able to find different rocks, for instance, and that would indicate you've moved into a different biome area. So I think the paradise quotient, let's see what the paradise quotient on this one is. I think what I really need to do is add it to my wonders. It might not show me though, because it's not the most paradise that I've seen probably. Paradise. And that's paradise giant. That's what I was trying to say. So these are the portal coordinates for paradise. Oh, and it's in Eisenton. That's a good point I should have mentioned earlier when I first went through the glyphs. It's in Eisenton. Did it have it on there? I just clicked off before I... No. See, it says harsh toxic wind, but that is an exotic style of weather, so it's not going to hurt us. We might see the occasional kind of false storm, but because it's paradise, we probably won't. No, it's not really showing us the quotient, but there's a specific quotient that decides whether or not something's paradise. If I went into survival mode on this save now, this could change from a paradise planet to something else. So it can't be anything to do with the rockiness. It has specifically to do with how dangerous things are. So there should be no patrolling sentinels really. I can find places where there will be some, but there won't be any patrolling ones anywhere. And there should be no animals that will attack me. And there should be no hazardous stuff apart from hazardous flora, which gets everywhere. But there should be no hazardous stuff that's kind of damaging me. And it's generally those kind of things. It's hospitable, is kind of, because the opposite of a paradise quotient is inhospitable. Maybe visible by setting log to exploration. Well, we could try. On here, it looks like the same stuff. It just says slow rotation. I wonder if that actually is a thing. or whether that's just like flavor text. I wonder if the days and nights are slightly longer. Yeah, one of the things that confuses a lot of people when they go looking for paradise planets is when they're in a different mode. If they're the kind of player that switches to relax mode when they explore, then they will find more paradise planets, because relax mode it takes away a lot of those hazards. So the planet will suddenly be paradise. And then, of course, they switch back and they go back to it for some reason, and it's no longer paradise. So some people consider true paradise planets to be paradise planets that are available in ultra settings survival or ultra settings permadeath. That's kind of going a bit far, really. As long as it's paradise in normal, I consider it a paradise planet generally. It does look quite nice, because it's not so much that that's a long way down, because we've seen that in lots of planets. It's the fact that it's a long way down and there's nothing over there, or there's not much over there. So again, if we put the sun in the sky, that mountain over there is a long way away, and there's a nice chain that leads over towards it. So a very different type of terrain than we're used to seeing. With the heights here, this feels more like an old style high mountain planet in this section, because we can see lots of nearby peaks with a few troughs between them. It took me a while to get up here. That's one of the things I was checking. Got little clumps of grass up here when it gets flat. What I'll probably do is fly around and see if there's anything else that's slightly different. I think most of this planet is kind of, what's it called? Almost basins with mountains surrounding them. Gravnot, you came to this planet for a while when you were checking out the grass. Did you ever fly around and see any different areas on the planet? Thinking I was in photo mode while flying then, which of course I could be, but I don't think it will specifically help me. It's clearly a darker planet, whether that's related to size. They have changed the way that darkness falls on planets now. It's varied. So some planets are very light at night and some are much darker at night. But I don't know if that's kind of based on cloud cover, or if it's based on size of the planet, or what. So yeah, look, we're in a typical huge basin between mountains, which seems to be the most regular thing I've found on this planet. Yeah, that's very much you, Gravnor. You just did the science and then moved on. This is a smaller basin area. Might be a nicer place to have a base in a kind of a smaller basin area. If we land here, let's just kind of get a feeling for how dense the trees are. Over here looked a slightly denser patch. See, what would be nice, and theoretically, we don't know really what the limits of these things are yet, because we haven't really seen many examples of lush planets that are giant planets. But theoretically, there may be lush giants that have got a lot more cover, or even this planet might have a lot more cover in an area that we haven't discovered yet, because the generation system seems to be slightly different, and it could be more patchy and clustered. I would imagine, though, that the ley line system is still kind of the same, so we might see certain types of things just spread out more. Yeah, the thing you might notice here, Gravnor, is that when we were here before, the creatures were all not biological, mechanical, and now they're all biological. So they were obviously involved in that bug that was mentioned in the patch notes. I would really like to know how high we are. Could give us those stats, even if it was only on one of the exocraft. We've said before the exocraft could do with some better stuff. It's nice it's got a cave in there, though. It doesn't look very welcoming cave. Yeah, if one of the exocraft had a better surveying equipment, so it could do things like tell us how high we were above sea level, that would be really nice. If there are mold, that is the type of thing that you will find in the ley lines. Gravnot probably knows more about the ley line system than me. What would be on the ley lines and what wouldn't be? But I'm pretty sure from experimentation that the mold will be spaced out more because it's based on your coordinates, and that changes. Coordinates aren't that are obviously different gradations on different planets because planet's bigger, so 1 degree or 1 second will be smaller. I don't mind running into stuff. I don't know if it's annoying you, but I don't really like third-party view in ships. I love being in first-person view. Mainly because when in space you can scan things. I hardly ever go into third-person view in ships. Plus, at the moment, if we do go into third-person, I do have a handy button for it. Sometimes these trails are getting a bit messed up at the moment. If we go slower, for instance, it's not doing it now. Maybe they've fixed it. They did mention they tried to fix it in the patch notes, but that doesn't always mean anything. But hi, Cranberry Crew. I'll stay in this one for a little while if you want, because it does help me have a look around, so... Which is kind of your point, I think. It's quite nice for viewing the vistas. There's a nice little chain there. I don't think Curious Posit will be further apart. It's just that they're going to be way too many for me to even attempt surveying a giant planet. See, I suspect they will be further apart, so now you're going to have to go and have a look. Did you get a standard living ship, or did you just get the expedition one, the Wraith? Did you do the living ship story, or did you do the expedition? On this save, I haven't done the story yet. so different. It's so different to what we would have seen before. The pity it's so misty, but I wouldn't be surprised if the mist was kind of quite common on these larger planets. You did both. Cool. The living ship story is kind of quite controversial. Some people see it as, oh, why does it have to take 5 days? Why is it spaced out this way? And others see it as, oh, it's quite nice because it makes us kind of nurture the ship and we kind of feel more attached to it. So people are in different camps on that one. I kind of feel the latter, that it kind of made us feel like we were invested in it by the end of it. And I think that's what they're trying to achieve. Yes, individual players will see it differently. Yeah, the whole anomaly giving out resources thing is also a controversial topic, which we've discussed on this stream before. I kind of tend to think if someone wants help, then give them help. And if they want to play the game that way, give them that help. But I wouldn't have wanted it when I first started playing. And the problem is there's no real way of stopping it. So you can't kind of turn it off. And I would love to have been able to just turn that off so that people couldn't give me stuff. But at the time, I didn't even know people could give me stuff. So I'd find things in my exosuit and wonder what on earth it was. But I have given out quite expensive and game-changing things in the past when people have wanted me to. So I'm not against it. Keep hoping I'll find a mountain just standing on its own, but they're always attached to long chains on this particular planet. Is that freestanding? No. Almost. A couple of mountains on their own, as it were. One of the things because they've changed, I'm exploring purple systems at the moment. Maybe I'll have a look in a bit, but because they've changed some of the vegetation on some of the existing planets too, I found one of my fishing spots had suddenly become really, really nice. Alright, let's have a look at the other planets in this system. I'm not sure if giving out the parts for the living ship really does anything, is it? Aren't they just broken parts if you give them out? I certainly think giving out things like the vulture wings is a cool thing to do. Oh. I'm also on the latest expedition, which is slightly more hitchy. They haven't quite optimized this one as much. And I'm on the latest NVIDIA drivers, which can sometimes mean that things aren't quite optimized fully. So you might see a few hitches that aren't necessarily representative of how the game will play. This is very bleak in the middle of an extreme storm. I'm in two minds about some of these animations on these newer trees. That looks a bit better. They were really doing that when they first came onto the scene. Some of them are very unrealistic and some of them are better. This one doesn't look too bad. Maybe they've just slowed them down a bit. There's very little point in me kind of scanning anything on this save just because I've reverted to a slightly broken save just to come here. See, this texture, this ground texture, I believe came in Worlds Part 1, and you can see it on quite a few different planets. Whereas these trees, I'm pretty sure, were Worlds Part 2. But again, they're not necessarily just purple systems. But the way they're clumped and the landscape they're on is obviously going to be slightly different. So would you describe this, for instance, as one of the more jungle-style planets, only on this particular biome? What is this? This is radioactive. These are certainly the mature trees they talked about that tried to create that more dense undergrowth feel. It certainly feels a very different environment to previous, mainly because of the assets. It's like a tree version of those old spiky bushes. Like a matured version. Oh, stay away from that. Do you feel like these are a little bit too prevalent on... You see them too often at the moment, I feel. If you go to all of your inventory full, they can't give... Yeah, but that becomes a problem when you're in... Look at that, there's gaps in there. Gaps in the rendering. Becomes a problem when you... have such a huge inventory. Not that it matters so much when you've got a huge inventory, because usually by then you're an experienced enough player to know what you've been given. So yeah, I mean, I did used to do that when I was a player that didn't have as much experience. If I went to the anomaly and didn't want to be handed anything, I would just spread out all of my carbon to fill it up. I'm thinking jungles are clumps of dense foliage separated by open meadows. I haven't found full jungle biome planet yet. I think you're mainly right. But I mean, if you look at this place, it is separate, it is spaced out, but it's not kind of widely spaced, and that's partly the terrain. But on this save, another planet that I might try and recover and go to on the less broken save, there's a very hot planet, a kind of a hot biome planet that I feel like is getting closer to the idea of a jungle, in that there's not many gaps between. So they are there though, but I do wonder if there will be planets we can find that just don't have many of those meadows, or whether that is a limitation of the engine and they're not keen on having quite that many assets. But they have deliberately made these assets bigger. Like that tree all seems to be one tree. It doesn't seem to have any other interaction points. And so a few of them clumped together can really make a difference. They're kind of sprawlier, wider trees. When you come across something very familiar, it's like, oh yeah, we are in No Man's Sky. You see these. But even those, like the lighting has changed those. They look slightly different in this lighting. Because we now have kind of different shadow effects on textures and different specular highlights on textures. They look different. They look more vivid in the sunlight. Talking of vivid in the sunlight, on the non-broken save version of this save, I found the most vivid coloured planet I've ever been on. There's a couple of places like that I might visit again before I finish the stream off. But mostly I want to focus on the purple systems because we still haven't done huge amounts of exploration on those. It's just fun to see what they've done and how they've done it. This feels rolling hills here. Let's see if it varies if we go somewhere else. Just feels like it's, I don't know, something about it feels high. But I guess it's because it's a very small moon. I think it's very small. Yeah, look at the curvature there. And I think this terrain, this new terrain style is a little bit slower to render. When we get up high, it really reveals the rendering. It looks like it's the same everywhere. Let's go down here a second. Yeah, pretty much. Just to double check, we'll go the other side.
Extreme radiation detected.
Let's kind of head over there somewhere. Yeah, it's looking similar. I mean, I'm not expecting to see huge variation in a small moon. Quite dense though, really. This area is very dense. I think if I'd have landed here, I would definitely have said this feels jungle-like. Almost feels a little bit like an exotic planet here with one of those hex planets where you just Got those hex trees everywhere, closing you in a bit. The beeping. There's something reversing outside. Slightly worried because the NVIDIA drivers have been a bit crazy with error reporting, and it sometimes seems to think that my graphics card's overheating when it isn't. It seems to be a problem with... Oh, come on. Take off. That's better. Seems to be a problem with the NVIDIA broadcast program. So, as other people have said, navigating these systems can be a bit of a pain, trying to find the other planets. So this is where I'm going to have to go back into first person and work out where they are. Quite like Captain Steve's idea. He says what we could do, and part of me doesn't like it and part of me likes it a lot, is that we could have some kind of auto navigation system. And the idea is if you discovered everything using a freighter, for instance, you could just select that planet and select auto navigate, and then you can go into a cinematic mode where it kind of shows around your ship and things that you're going past. So it would be like a sit back and watch the views kind of mode, which could be quite nice. I like that element of it, the turning it into a cinematic experience element. Not sure if I like the being quite so easy element. I kind of like the fact it's tricky. Oh look, we can see the exact line on that planet. Now it's getting harder to spot. I can still see it there though. One of the things that's interesting about how they render these planets is they actually work everything out based on a cube because it's easier, and then they map it onto a sphere. That's one of the reasons you can see those lines, because it's slightly inaccurate, but a lot quicker supposedly. But there are people in Hello Games that apparently kind of wish they had never done that and they're just stuck with spheres. So, but it's a choice they made long ago and they can't really get away from that now. Something they need to fix about those moons around gas giants is the space scan lock-on. They're so small that pointing the cursor at the moon don't register, so you don't know if you're... Yeah, I know, it's frustrating. And the even more annoying thing is in the expedition, if someone's put a base there, it will quite happily lock onto the base, but it won't lock onto the planet. So you never really see what you're going towards, unless that base is named nicely. Can you even see the name of the base? I can't remember now. Can I see the name of that base? Yes. That's interesting. I don't remember seeing that frosty look on these assets before. It's really nice. I presume this is a low gravity. Yeah. So this seems to be full of deeper patches, but I've landed in a spot where I can't really see the deeper patches. So I'm going to get back in the ship. This is one of the deeper patches, which is probably open style cave terrain, which isn't really caves, but you know, the really larger caves. Let's go back into so kind of canyons. We've got like a layer of canyons cutting through it. If it was different terrain and wasn't a moon, it could potentially make a good racetrack. But some of the exocraft act a bit strangely on moons. Hi, Grumpy Scott. Are you a Scottish person that's grumpy? I can identify with that. I have both grumpiness and Scottish heritage. So, or are you just happen to be called Scott? Yeah, there's not an awful lot to see here, but it is nice. And you could imagine someone making a racetrack in some of these canyons. Or if we ever had ship racing, you could imagine forcing people to have to go into them. I just don't think we'll ever get ship racing person. Yes, grumpy and Scottish. I feel like the two things, they're not directly related, but I think there is a diagram where they overlap considerably. I feel like some of my not putting up with what's the YouTube word for it? Bullfecium comes from my Scottish ancestry. Why is that? That was pointing upwards. Oh, I guess it's because I was still on the planet. So it's one more moon, and now we have. What's that? I don't know. Now we have that issue potentially of not being able to identify which moon that we were just talking about. But go back into. I'm assuming we came from that one over there. So we'll take a potluck. I might have got turned around. Having said all that about grumpiness and Scottishness, my grandfather, where my Scottish heritage comes from, he was the least grumpy man in the world. So he was a very, very happy, jovial, friendly guy. I don't think I saw him lose his temper more than once or twice in my whole life until he passed. What is this? Forsaken. So it's going to be similar. Let's see how similar. Not very similar. A bit more open but mostly filled in. I don't think there's a lot that the terrain generation can do with these moons, because they're quite small. Oh, it's distant. I didn't notice that. It's a nickname my 22-year-old grandson couldn't say grandpa when he was a baby, so he called me Grumpy, and it stuck. I'm 71 years old. I'm an avid gamer. Well, welcome to No Man's Sky. It's I hope you'll find that it's as welcoming to you as it was to most of us. It's a very friendly crew that play this game generally. Yep, not much else to see there. Did you come in with this particular update? Did you come in with Worlds Part 2? And do you coincidentally happen to be the person I was talking to on Reddit today, where I said that that the 50 hours that you've experienced could be everybody else's 15 to 20 hours, or 30 hours could be everybody's 15 to 20 hours? If you are, you'll know what I mean. If you're not, that will just be meaningless. I think I remember this one. It's the one that's got the snaky lines, but not many of them, and they only just break the surface. I do feel like the gas giants are a little bit boring. They do have some variation. I'm sure we'll find others that have greater variation. You might find really tall mountains, for instance, but they just feel a little bit... They just feel like a point of interest, a gigantic point of interest, rather than a planet. Ah, okay. Well, welcome to the channel. Which Wraith video? Yesterday's, where I was upgrading it, or the analysis of it? Very different videos, but... Yesterday's stream, I totally focused on upgrading the Wraith. Using the tricks we used to use with living ships when they first came out, and we couldn't do it any other way. Well, this is one of the most boring planets I've ever seen. Although it has Possibly got deep caves under there. Let's land and have a look. Okay, so if it was just the kind of the review and checking out the new stuff, then if you have managed to get the wraith from the expedition, I would say have a quick look at the stream that I did yesterday, because it does give you tips on how to make the best of the wraith. To see some of these caves feel a little bit larger in scale with the new update. Hello, I don't usually see you down here. Are you classified as underground?
Units received.
Nope. I think you just fell down here. No, maybe it's my imagination. It doesn't feel that different, this cave. Well, congratulations on finishing the expedition. Was it your first expedition? It wasn't too bad an expedition if it was your first one. There have been others that have been far more challenging for newer players. And this one was relatively straightforward, if a little bit. The start could be a little bit... where on earth have they put us? Why am I on this tornado planet? But apart from that, it was... And apart from some of the weird bugs with the water planet, it wasn't too bad. Some of us older players will criticise the expeditions that are simpler and maybe a little bit more harshly than we should, because we should take into account that some of the expeditions are specifically designed for newer players. And they don't want a lore dump, and they don't want really complex stuff to achieve. They just want some straightforward, goal-driven stuff that can give them nice rewards. And so this expedition, the Titan expedition, is one of those, I think. But not much to see. There are points of interest, but it's very, very sparse, this planet. Or moon. I will continue with the other moons, and I feel like what I really want to look for are the non-giant or the non-gas giants. Yes, one of the things, did you start the expedition with a new save or not? I'm asking you loads of questions and you're probably only going to type back a couple of answers. But I'm just interested if you are now continuing with the purple systems visible, or whether you had to go back to a save where the purple systems are not available, and then now you feel like it's a distant dream to even revisit them. Because it's a bit of a strange decision by Hello Games. It kind of makes sense and kind of doesn't. I'm not sure where I stand on it. The game does need endgame content, so that kind of makes sense. We have water. So it's clearly Vermilion Storms. It's clearly a mega exotic with water. It's got that slant to it that some people say is a bug that they've just said isn't, and some people say it's new. I think it's new. I think it's deliberate that they've really lent into it, if you'll excuse the pun. But like that's I'm standing up straight and that water is at a slant. Oh, we've got a shiny. Yeah, I like these. I love their shiny shells. I keep you as an example. Oh, I can't keep him. I'd have to come back. No, I know where one is on my other save, so it's not so bad. It's almost identical to this, to be honest. Keep forgetting this isn't my save. This is just an exploration using a save I've taken off my hard drive and I'm going to delete again later. Can I ask you how long it took you, Grumpy Scott, as a new player to do the expedition? Because I've clearly got a feel for how long it's taking most of us that have been playing the game for a while, which is around about 4 hours. But it'd be nice to know how long it took someone who was kind of feeling their way through it. What kind of level of content that gives somebody that's new. Okay, so you will still need to do in stellar multitudes to see the purple systems, even if you've got the drive, as far as I'm aware. But if you've done the Atlas and the Artemis path, then you're pretty close to that anyway, so. Is that the one I've been to? So easy to get turned around, and they look the same. And I've just, there's a few here as well. Let's take that one. I'll read that out. No, it's my main. Took the Euclid drive back. Euclid drive? Do we even have the drive on here? I must have them. Oh, there it is. It's right over there. Atlantid Drive, do you mean? Took the Euclid Drive back so I have access. Just finished the Artemis story and Atlas ready to start. 10 hours, I mean, that doesn't sound too bad as an experience for somebody new. It's not. If it was getting more than 15 hours, I think a newer player, but you can't be that new if you've done the whole Artemis, so you must be at least 30, 40, 25 to 30 hours in, I would guess. If it took you more than 10 hours getting up towards 15 hours, I can imagine that being really quite frustrating for a newer player that wants to just get back to doing what they were doing. Of course, you can jump back and forth, but the principle of the thing, because kind of 10 hours is like a mini game in itself, isn't it? It's like there are some games that only take 10 hours. Something like Hello Games' little game. Their Last Campfire is probably a 10 to 15 hour game, depending on how quickly you can do puzzles. This is interesting. So it's another mega exotic. It's got the mega fauna. Sorry, flora. These pools are very interesting. And I know it's only subtle, they've only just changed the level of the water, but it does feel different. This terrain. These terrain structures are interesting. It's not going to show them now, probably didn't render them. Let's go over here and have a look. I know they're kind of in there. I think it had only partially rendered some of it, so it made it look a bit more different. That's scannable? No, they very rarely are. I like these little creatures. I call them sylphs, but I can't remember what the game calls them. They're just an example of a creature, so I don't think they've got a specific name.
Warning. Threat detected.
I have no idea if I've already been to this one. I think I did. I'm finding the moons, although interesting to quickly look around, they're not quite as riveting as the planets. I might just skip to another, see if I can find another giant that isn't a gas giant next, rather than go around to the next moon. This is very featureless, it seems. The caves aren't that different. Okay, let's go to a giant. We can find one on the galaxy map. I want to get my eye in on the right color first. So, okay. So there's that one. Yes. So let's have a look. Nope. What I'm looking for is a large planet with moons on. One planet with moons on in the animation. But it doesn't say gas giant when we click on it here, where it says dissonant. I think I've lost my eye for the color again. I'm always doing this. As soon as I take my eye off of it, there's one. That's You can clearly see there at the top, there's a planet with 2 moons, but there's also 3 planets going around. And what we're looking for is just that planet with moons around, and all of them will be around that. So we're looking for one track around the whole system. I'm conveniently on top of them all at the moment. If I can stay at this angle. Because it can be difficult to look at these sometimes, but this is the perfect angle. I'm just drifting away from the angle there. Sorry if this is a little bit all over the place for viewers. Be a bit disorientating, the galaxy map, especially when people are just randomly looking through it. Right, I think I've lost my colour again. Is that purple? And especially because I'm using a... No, that's M. Lost the colour in my... They're purple. There's an example. But unfortunately, it's a gas giant, so that's not what we're looking for. And it says gas giant on this view without going into the animation, but we're looking for a single large planet with rings around it. Where have they gone? Where have the purple systems gone? There's one. Ah. Would it be nice if something like the Wraith could identify specific things different to our normal ships? So, for instance, it could pick out things like dissonance as a filter. That would be really nice. You have a reason for having a Wraith when you're exploring them. There's something unique about it. What else could we pick out on here? Maybe water could be a color rather than a just an attribute. Maybe gas giant could be a color rather than an attribute. Just a few things you could filter differently. Is that purple? Yes. X and Y are the codes. So it says 630 light years away, X7PF. So X is a purple system and so is Y. Not finding one. Step. This is where a controller is not ideal either. Maybe I should be using the mouse, but I'm not used to using the mouse, so it would just be a bit confusing, I think. Ah, missed it. That's a gas giant. That's a gas giant. That's... Nope. Don't know if I'm being unlucky or they really are this rare. If they really are this rare, then finding a paradise giant is unusual. Like we did, well, like we started on. There seem to be little clumps in the old voids, I think. Like this, if it wasn't for those purple systems, this would be quite an empty region of space. Gas giant. I'm going to give up in a minute and go for a gas giant. Ah, just as I say that, one happened. So how many have we got? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus. So that's the maximum, I believe. 6, including the giant planet. So let's find out what it is. Hot giant. Adst. Must be a Viking planet. Yeah, but it's uncharted. I'm going to land. And I need to take a quick break. Well, purple system that we started on was a giant paradise with 3 moons. So you've definitely been on that one. You just didn't notice it had 3 moons. Right, I need to take a quick break. I will be right back. Should have a be right back thing on one of these. Not on that one. Yeah, I don't know where that's hiding. Okay. Well, we have mechanicals here. Let's get the glyphs just in case anybody wants to visit here. They're watching this later. Hawk, Diplo, triangle, rocket, tree, triangle, rocket, scarab, triangle, tree, tent, hawk. So the planet itself is clearly rolling, but it clearly has very different heights. We go down and down and down and see where it takes us. So it's still rolling down here. Doesn't feel that dissimilar to pre-purple systems. I've been on rolling planets that have had long declines before. This feels a bit different though, the way that it's got a temporary decline and then goes back up and then carries on going down. I think there are 3 at least on here. Let's have a look. 4. There are 4. Let's make sure by getting all of them. There's that one, which has the twin of that other one, I think. There's that little one there. One over there. Can't quite see it. Yep, so that one's already discovered, so that's the same as that tall one. This one and this one are the same, but different subspecies or genders or whatever they are. Whatever you would call a robot, different species, so a different gender or whatever it is. Yeah, the robot thing has changed. A bit too close to the microphone there. The robot thing changed a little while ago. It might have changed in Worlds Part 1. It might have changed... When did they introduce these giant mechanicals? Was that Worlds Part 1? I've been to a few planets that have had 4, sometimes I think even 5. Whereas it always used to be 2, didn't it? That's all of them. I think you will still only see 2 of the old style. Let's have a look at our list. So that's new style, old style, new style. I think there is possible to have more of these building style ones, but still only 2 of these runners. I think that's how it works. I got turned around a bit and I wasn't looking at my compass, so I don't know if I'm still going in the same direction. seem to be going up again now, though. Yeah, it almost doesn't feel like a giant planet at all. It doesn't feel that different. But I guess there's a possibility of different terrain rendering elsewhere on the planet. Dark, though. Probably because of the storm. As well as it being nighttime, of course. It feels all quite rolly hills around here. Let's go somewhere significantly different on the planet. Yes, that's how I'm thinking. I'm thinking that would be around about Worlds Part 1, wouldn't it? Because that was in the summer. I remember vividly because I was away on vacation when the Worlds Part 1 save dropped, and I wasn't able to play it. But I was following the chatter. I deliberately didn't take my Steam Deck with me on holiday. That might not have been a very popular choice. If anything, this area feels a bit flatter than the other area. If we could see anything. We've got a bit of higher ground. Quite rolling in general.
Weather update. Storm clearing.
Come on, let the storm clear and then we'll see what the place looks like again. Yeah, so this feels like higher ground and lower ground again.
Extreme temperature detected.
So similar to where we were a little while ago. Yeah, interesting from a what are they doing on the terrain generation front, but not such an interesting planet. Not much to really explore in terms of its terrain. I think it would be theoretically possible for me to just go into the atmosphere and then suddenly come across one large giant mountain now because of the way this generation system works, but I haven't seen an example of that, so difficult to tell. Certainly we're on higher ground here. Much lower down there. But not the most riveting landscape. quickly have a look at the world's part 1 patch notes as I flick through, see if I can see the giant fauna, because that was... Maybe it was slightly before that. No, it was. Living buildings, very rarely in sectors where the anomaly field is strongest. Planetary buildings have evolved legs and transformed themselves into sentient constructs that roam across the landscape. Yeah, looking very similar. Let's have a quick look at a couple of the moons. I have a feeling that when we look back on this period, it's going to kind of blur into one, what was World's Part 1 and what was World's Part 2. Because they're both very similar themed in terms of they're both planet generation stuff. They've both got lots of new assets. This is very flat. What we need next is some reason to come to these planets, because otherwise people aren't going to necessarily explore them as thoroughly as they would. So if we had to come here, people will go, oh, this is an interesting place, but you have to have a reason to come here. The colour filter is quite nice. The ground cover's quite nice in that it's very lush. Ow. It's a unicorn cat. But it otherwise feels very featureless, apart from obviously the giant frondy things. But the colour's nice. Work out what colour this is, whether it's the atmosphere is just giving it a rosier tinge. Is it dissonant? No. Marshy. Perhaps. Oh, it's got floating islands on a marshy planet, so that's new for Worlds Part 2. Are the floating islands incongruously green, I wonder? They do look a bit like it. Don't have any... Well, that one didn't have any plants on. This one does. Yeah, so they almost feel like little lush areas. Cannot land. Why can't I land? It looks like a landable one. Maybe it's not big enough, I don't know. That looks very much the same, so let's try somewhere. Slightly bigger, perhaps? I'm not sure. Ah, overshot. Flying is terrible. This is why I like first-party view, because I can fly better. Even if I do bump into things, it's not quite in the same way. It's a different type of bumping into things. Yeah, that seems to have... Have I ever lost the one I was going to land on? Go right down to that one instead. No, it really doesn't want me to land. We need a bigger one. I'm going to need a bigger rock. That looks the same. Did it let me fly through it? No, it doesn't. So it's unclear why it won't let me land. It's a bigger one. Oh, it went straight through that one. What's that there? It's a different style. That's quite nice. Yeah, you can land on that one. The waterfall ones we can land on, but there's not much space to land. Nose in the rock. Have they fixed the water thing? Yes, they have. Our feet are in the water now. They're just floating above like some kind of weird glass. Excellent. Well, I suppose you could build here. It was a bit small. Come on, take off. Have I got stuck? It would be typical if I have. Okay. Interesting combination of newer style floating islands and older style floating rock islands. And they've really clumped these dead trees together on this one, which makes it feel a little bit different to most marsh planets. feels different. It does feel more like a forest of dead trees. Yeah, this could be a nice place for a spooky build. Maybe somehow use the floating islands, maybe not. That's interesting, isn't it? Petrified forest under a rock. Nice, I like this planet. Different. So, glyphs for future reference. Balloon, diplo, triangle, rocket, tree, triangle, rocket, scarab, triangle, tree, tent, hawk. What is that noise? It can't be that. Ah, we got a there's something closer. What is it? Just maybe there's a plant below us somewhere. It sounds like one of those puffer plants. Maybe it's in a cave just below us. I think that was the normal one. And the giant worm does add to that spooky element. If you wanted to make a horror vibe build, maybe with the new ruin parts. Have to be careful because some of these assets can move around. Oh, that's very vivid for this planet. Oh, I didn't know they span. The most vivid thing here. Interesting. Nice planet. Worth visiting. More interesting than the giant was. Are those trees harvestable by the mining beam, or are they at the old style marsh trees? I think these ones generally are. Yeah, scannable. Unless they're really tall. I think there are some examples of non-harvestables. But the spindly ones, a bit like the build part, I think are mostly harvestable. So it's not a new asset, is it? We've seen this asset a lot. Quite tall for harvestables. Sorry, I can read that properly. Gloomsy lion. Oh yeah, I visited a system the other day where I couldn't mine the giant mushrooms. But then there was another where I could. Very strange. Yeah, it depends on... I mean, it is supposedly to do with the size. But if you can find a really giant harvestable, then they are quite rare. And there is even a section on the wiki of mega flora, because really tall minables of that type that look like the ones that you can't mine can be quite rare. So you may have found a very rare one depending on how tall they were.
Hostile scan detected. Warning. Threat detected. Hostile ships
Do
approaching.
you really want to start a fight? Where are you? Oh, it's tough. Because are we in one of those Uncharteds? Yeah. Can get quite tough pirates in Uncharted. They can be ironically tougher than standard pirate encounters in pirate systems.
Hostile ships defeated.
Right, you've turned me right around. Now I don't know what moon I was going to. I mean, I think one of the reasons that that they're so rarely documented is that so few people really pay attention to the flora in this game. The fauna and the planets themselves tend to be the highlights, and not that many people pay attention to the trees and the plants. For instance, most people will swear blind that every tree of a particular... This is the one I've been to? Yeah, it's the blue one. Most people will swear blind that every tree of a particular type is identical to the one they saw on another planet, but there's usually slight differences. But people don't notice the slight differences because they're not really paying attention to trees. Which is why I think this particular Worlds Part 1 and Part 2, by introducing lots of new assets, have done themselves a bit of a favour, because people are now seeing some of those new assets and maybe even seeing some of the older assets and thinking, oh, this is new or different. This is just an ordinary X planet. But the landscape's subtly different in that we've got these little risers. Possibly could have seen that before, but it just feels slightly different. Feels like my frame pacing isn't great. I'm 150 frames a second here, but my frame pacing feels slightly off. Possibly all the assets loading in over and over. But we can't really see much different. It might even be jerkier on the stream, to be honest. It really feels different. I don't think there's much reason to land, but I do like the colours. That green colour of the hex plant is nice. Yeah, so where are we? there somewhere. Where is it? Oh, there. This is the problem we were talking about earlier. We just can't get a bead on it to tell if it's what we've been to before. We haven't been there. Yeah, I do like that hexagonal look from space. It makes it look very alien, very like a construct, maybe. AJ Hydro, welcome to the chat. What's this? Airless, okay. So are these sections high and low ground? A bit like the old one we saw? Oh, well, this is a bit weird. This is very fractal-like. Rendering is a bit different. Slower. Got these assets that have got the frost on, which we saw earlier, that I hadn't seen before. Got a browner version of this new... I'm going to land and look at that. It's interesting to see the variation of these new hazardous flora. There seem to be a good amount of variation for these, just because they seem to have put different textures on them and different colours and different... Like this one's very spiky. People were always complaining that the hazardous flora were the same on every planet, so this is obviously their answer to that. It's a nice one, I like that. Hasn't got a harvestable though. Oh. Really is a pirate paradise here. Let's land rather than try and use the scanner as we're quite close to the ground. Now, something I haven't tested, but I was pleased to see in the patch notes for this experimental branch, is that they may have fixed the problem. Oh, it's just stayed spawned. Come on then. You would have thought that the pirates would recognise that this is a traveller-only ship and think they're not worth fighting. Obviously a very inexperienced pirate. Yes, this is like the more extra... we've visited about 3 or 4 of these for those of you that haven't been on the stream all along. These kind of moons that have got 2 different levels of terrain. And they've all been slightly different. This is probably the most up and down, kind of fractally, lumpy, craggy maybe, of the lot. I've been there, but it's difficult to tell. Is that where I've just been? Let's go out a bit further and see if we can get a bead on it. Scaly, that's probably the... Oh no, we went to plated before, didn't we? Airless. Still can't get a beat on that one. Isn't Scaly a plated moon? Is Scaly a plate? Yeah, I've been to it, haven't I? Because... Unmapped. No, we haven't been to it. Dagonia, I like the name. It's another hex planet. Will it feel different? Oh, of course we didn't land on it. That's why it's the same one, isn't it? Let's land on it so we've registered that we've been here. I said it wasn't worth landing, but of course it would have been. Yeah, exactly, Grab. No, I didn't land here. Rookie error for an explorer. Always land. Actually, while we're talking about rookie errors, I should really just see what the... Yeah, no, it's a standard. Was that the one I haven't been to? Again, I can't get a bead on it. I don't think I landed on the craggy one either, which is... We landed on that one. So if there's one we haven't landed on, it's probably that one. So we've probably been to all of them now. I wasn't counting. Another rookie error. Should always count. So, ideally... Actually, no, we've been to a couple of giant planets now. So let's just go to an ordinary purple with a good number of planets. So that's got 1, 2, 3, 4 and 2 moons. That'll do. It's actually quite liberating, just doing this kind of exploration while not being in a save that I'm going to keep, because I'm just going to burn this save completely, because it's like a broken save that I've reverted to an older one. If I was doing this on my main save, I would be having to document everything so that I had a record of what I'd found in a spreadsheet, and that wouldn't be very stream friendly. So it's quite liberating to just do it this way. You may think, why on earth would you do that? But you can really discover some interesting things about the game by documenting as you go along, because when things change you can go back and see what's changed rather than just have a feel or only going by your bases and planets that you're really familiar with. So, toxic planet. It's got that bulbous newer texture that came in Good Worlds 1. Got some newer asset style trees. Feels like different terrain levels. That feels higher ground than where I've just been. That feels lower. land on the higher area. The word for this is spotty. It's a spotty planet. Got dots everywhere and dotty flora. These are relatively new as well. Very lumpy ground. It's just on the higher bits by the look of it. Let's see if it's still the same when we get lower. Yeah, it's still here as well. Just need to get closer to it. There's little tendrils running through it. Makes it very sporal feeling. Like the whole thing's covered in some kind of mould. And some space cabbage. It's a very nice mix of assets. Wouldn't want to live here, but always go inside these. You can. Purple is very vivid too, but I have a feeling if I get closer, it will be covered in the green stuff. Yep. If anybody wants the glyphs for any of these, then just shout out. I mean, this is the type of planet I probably wouldn't visit with glyphs, but not that I do that much anyway. If someone thinks that's just exactly what I've been looking for, a green sporal mess, then shout out and I'll give the glyphs out. I don't see many land creatures, are there any? Is that flying? There's quite a few creatures here. They're just spaced out. Ground. A lot of them are ground. So where are they hiding? Okay, so we got fairy creature that blends in well. We've got a floaty spider. It was nice when the two variations spawn next to each other, then you can count out there being a greater mushroom beetle amongst them. That can get a bit obsessive when you're trying to find the one variation that's not spawning. Actually landing on this planet, I've come from all the way up there, and there's a good vista here, so this is very different. I mean, a disgusting vista, but I got you, yep. You're the same, I presume. That storm. Yeah, they're marked now like that. You can see the little icon for them. I think that's in the latest expedition, the latest experimental patch notes. Can't land on it.
Units received. Units
Something over
received.
here. What's that? Must be over there. Nothing unusual or rare or that interesting. Definitely a difficult terrain to navigate. It's definitely ideal for someone that's got all of the upgrades, but wouldn't want to walk around on this on permadeath. You just started on and spawned on something like this. Which is mercifully not possible. Did I get all the grounds? Yeah, flying underwater. I wonder what the underwater's like on this planet. I haven't even seen the water. This definitely feels more like a fungal planet than we're used to. Is there any water? Yeah, yes, there's huge areas of water. I'm betting it's going to be similar to other areas of underwater, but you never know. Oh, that's interesting. I've seen these bulbous ones before, but I don't think I've seen anything quite like that before.
units received.
I'm convinced that they've added some different additions to some of the fauna. It's very difficult to prove without having all of the details of the flora, of the fauna parts, and it's not something I've ever specialized in. But that, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like that.
Units received.
These crystals are a new asset, but I have seen them around. The lighting is much improved. It's an interesting asset. That looks like it might be a toxic specific asset. Yeah, it feels very different. It's nice. Nice underwater environment. Those circular things give a lot of structure to the space. What's that over there?
Units received.
This is an example of something where if you find it, you think, I need to find if there's another variation, just in case there's one with a proper mushroom stalk. Has anyone got a stasis farm using stacks? Do you mean stacks of biodomes? I mean, I haven't. I've never bothered to do that, but I know it can be done if that's what you're referring to. Why has it stopped working? I know there's been some changes to biodomes. There have been some subtle changes to the way their snap points sit. So there might have been changes to the way they can be harvested. Unless you're just interested in how to do it. Yeah, I can't access my stack. I suspect that that might be partly to do with the way that the biodomes have subtly changed. Which, yeah, I think there's a number of differences. Someone was saying that the snap point interaction point is also changed. I don't quite know what they meant by that, but they said something like that. They might also have been talking about this, I suppose. So yeah, I'm aware that there's been some changes, so you're not the only one experiencing that. I've seen other people mention it online. I mean, it was one of those glitches that people only really worked out recently. What's the workaround? I think the first time I saw a stacked biodome system was only within the last year or maybe 6 months. It was a really reasonably new exploit, if you want to call it that. I presume you're saying raise up my stacks and use the moon pool floor to access them. Okay, yeah, using the moon pool floor might... You mean so you basically had to have one that was not so close to the ground, so you could get in the lowest moon pool? There was a while when moon pools didn't work on bio domes. So it's interesting that that's working. Yeah, I really liked that planet for a toxic planet. I spent quite a bit of time in it, considering. Let's have a look at this one over here. To the moon. Flourishing. If this planet has got a little bit more space, and I've got the resources because I have, this isn't really a building save. Might have a quick look. Doesn't have a lot of space, but crash into the ground. So do I have the resources? I'll soon find out. At least I could actually build a... Having so many problems not being able to build at all without going into free float mode, free placement mode. I don't have all of the glass, but I have nearly enough. I might just be able to craft some more. Nope. I guess I could glitch it just for the... I'm not on the right thing here. Hang on a second. Right, just first of all, just want to quickly look to see if they have changed the interaction. They've got that strange thing where it will only let us position the doors on some sides, and that's still consistent. I don't know why that... There's always one side it won't let us position it on, which is odd. Of course, it's the inconvenient side for where I'm standing. But yeah, it's just inside the door you can now harvest the plants, which I think has changed subtly. Did you harvest them from just outside before? Yeah, this is definitely a bit of a wonky one because I glitched it in. Could you just stand just outside before, or did you have to step inside? Yeah, the interaction is within the doorway now, so you can't access from outside the door. Yeah, I thought that's what somebody had said online. They said something about the interaction point in the doorway, and I wasn't quite sure what they meant, but now it makes sense. So they might have done that deliberately, to be honest. They sometimes do subtly nerf things that they're not particularly keen on. You wouldn't have thought they would care, but... And especially when there are some things they just never try and sort out. But there are some things that I think they find very difficult to sort out. For instance, duping with a small refiner. I honestly don't think there's an easy way for them to sort that out. So they just make the thing smaller and smaller. The point that decides where it is smaller and smaller, and that doesn't really stop anything. Yeah, so I guess if you had a stack and you had a door, I never actually built a stack, so I don't know how they work, but I guess they used to work where you would have a stack and you could just access them by going up along the or I suppose you could put them sideways as well, so you could just walk along them and just bang, 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 bang. I always thought that they would all pop at once. Is that not how they worked? Oh, I wonder, can you slightly scale them down so that they I'm in the wrong save to test this. I will do some experiments and see. Because if you can slightly scale them down and it just pushes it slightly outside the door, you might get away with, say, a 3/3 or 3/4 size one. Make it a little bit trickier to build, but not that much harder. Tried multiple ways to bypass the doorway, but no luck. I even used the glass cube to try and phase the biodome glass at the doorway, but that doesn't work anymore. Yes, I've heard that just changed. There are still multiple ways to access them, but none of them... I've also heard that there may be a way to just completely... Whereas you used to just be able to open them kind of in a bit of a strange pattern, there may now be a way that you can just shear off half of the glass. But I don't know how they do it. No, but that's a new thing I've just seen a couple of people's photos of, and I haven't really investigated. I know Loki, who does all the underwater bases, was interested because someone had shown him a sheared off biodome, and he was interested in how they'd done it. He was asking me, but I just didn't know. He was going to experiment, so keep an eye out. He's got quite an obscure channel where he just points out things he's discovered with underwater building, including things like biodomes. If he did find something, he'd probably post it on there. He's the guy for opening things up and finding weird quirks with anything that can be an underwater part. This is more normal. Oh, I was going to see if I could find an underwater cave, because they supposedly fixed that in this experimental build. What's that? Just an ordinary fish having difficulty with the terrain. Here's one. Oh, I like that asset. That's new. That could be a nice variety of colours. Yeah, this is okay now. We're not being popped up to the top or popped up to the top of the cave or out of the caves entirely. They seem to have fixed it at last. Nice. I have to try it on a moon next. Find one. That was quite impressive for a little pond. I didn't expect it to be that deep, and we found like a cave under there. It was swimmable. Had quite a few fish. I'm missing the trout here. When I was doing some stasis devices, I was refining my plants in refine. Yeah, I always used to do that when the push came to shove. You'd want stuff right now. You didn't have quite what you wanted. Refiners. Especially those of us that use refiners on freighters and don't worry about them losing stuff. Just shove a load of stuff in refiners and go exploring, come back, and there they are. You can nuke the biodome to access them, but you can't nuke the floors and attach them. Not quite sure what you mean by can't nuke the floors and attach them. The doors, sorry. Yes, okay, that makes more sense. I mean, it looks kind of boring planet, but the underwater it redeemed it a little bit. But it's definitely a different terrain. You can see those of us that are used to No Man's Sky terrain. This is not your standard terrain. It's a nice spherical monolith. A circular shape there, which is not a crater, so that's unusual. This is almost like a creek. This feels like the kind of planet you might find in a space game. And I say that only partly tongue-in-cheek. Developing. Probably not worth checking out though. I can never help it. It didn't let me land. Landing's got a bit more finicky recently with these. Pernickety, not finicky. enthusiast checking. Spent too much time multi-tool hunting to not check. Definitely a bit of frame pacing issues again. I'm down to 80, 90 frames per second, which is definitely less than normal. There are still a few engine issues, I think. Unless this... it's just that this experimental branch hasn't been optimized yet. Sometimes these things can get fixed just before they go live. Okay, I think we've got a good feel for that planet. Quite liked it. Been there. I think there were some moons on this planet, weren't there? Yes. That is a moon. Little dayside. Very nice purple star here. I mean, I know we're in a purple system, but I haven't really paid attention to the actual stars. Okay, so we're on a ruined planet, or moon. I feel these are a slight missed opportunity. I appreciate them. I like that they're here. I just wish they were. I wish these things were slightly better clumped together rather than just spaced out everywhere. That bobbly one again, slightly different colour. Sloth-like dinosaurs. I think there's a higher possibility of these being predatory, but I don't know for sure. I've never seen a predatory diplo that attacked people, but I have seen predatory triceratops and predatory ones of those. But I'm assured that other people have seen them. So I live waiting for a predatory diplo. Aggressive predatory diplo. I don't think the animation would be quite up for it. I can't imagine a diplo attacking you. What would it do? Just slowly put its head down. That just feels a little bit unlikely. These seem to take on some of the colours, I feel, of the environment, but I might be imagining that. But they definitely have some really nice specular highlights on the assets. They've taken advantage of the new part of the engine. They don't have to render slowly though. It's a very straight block. I was fishing in one of these the other day, but I don't think this one's got water in. It has got a ruin in it, look. And a cave, interesting. Can we get out of the asset? Doesn't look like it. Maybe we could get out of now. I'm tempted to build here, but I've done that. I've done builds in these things before, so it wouldn't feel that different and exciting. But it's a nice example. Now, where did I park my ship? There. Interesting mix of colours, that kind of blue sky. What's the monolith here? They're more common. It's a little bit rounder, I think. No, it's gone square as I get closer. Yeah, I'd just like to see these clustered slightly more. I'm sure that would be possible in the new terrain system. They have got small clusters, like this. It would just be better if they had more gaps between them. That moon, that's not the other moon, is it? There was another moon. Let's switch views a second. Energy. These always, at this level, they always look like chocolate when you get that texture. This is a little bit more crowded in terms of its jungle-likeness. Similar to that one earlier. Because of that asset, it's so spread out. Very similar to that one earlier. I wonder if they're all going to be similar to this. I always get a bit confused when I jump out of my ship and I hear that splosh. And I forget it's because I'm wearing one of these helmets. beetles. 2 types. Most type of beetles I've ever seen on one planet was about 5. Must be big. It's a long scan. 200 odd. 234. 3 types of beetle. Was it that one? No, that's different. Four types of beetle. These are definitely more clusterable in purple systems. That one's really disgusting. Have we got all the ground creatures? Yes. So there will be no more. Yeah, I would explore more, but this is quite similar to the other one we were on earlier in the stream, apart from the giant beetles. So it's a little bit better, a bit more to see, but we've kind of done it so already. Right, discovered that. Haven't quite got a bead on that one. Got 2 more I haven't looked at. Been there. It's probably the other moon, is it? That's one of them. Plated, I wouldn't necessarily bother, but they are subtly different now, so let's have a look. Sorry, I missed the comment about I don't fancy tearing down my stasis farm just to rebuild it again, but I might have to because the moon pool of access is annoying. I can imagine it would be. I know that some people made a habit of kind of tilting them so they stacked that way, so the domes were horizontal. I can imagine that might be a bit easier. You had platforms. As long as you could access them outside the moon pool, I guess. To be honest, whenever I built a stasis farm, I always just did normal corridors, ran through, and ding 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 as I went through the biodomes. It never really bothered me. Obviously it's not quite as efficient, but it's efficient enough for me. stopped hard hitting my stasis farms when they started giving us the guild stuff. There were loads and loads of bugs here as well. It's like the things that were expensive were things that the guilds were suddenly giving out, and it just made me not worrying about it anymore. But I never liked the fact the guilds were just giving it away for free and you could just go from one to the other. It always felt too cheesy. Okay, one's eating another. That's lovely to see. Delightful. Feels like this system has got a bug infestation going on. Oh, you're a lovely looking chap, aren't you? Yeah, some since Worlds Part 1, I believe, some might have been Worlds 2. Even already they're starting to blur into each other. You do get some unusual fauna on some of these planets, so things like bugs can turn up on places like this. They seem to be marked as a possible exotic now. But I haven't got all of them. So flying. So there's a flying fauna as well, which is unusual for a Hex planet. An underground, 2 undergrounds. So this is a full complement, really. It's an ordinary bird. But yeah, they've definitely made some changes to the way things spawn that you might not notice if you don't bother to land on these places. I think it was one of these planets. It wasn't a Hex, but it was an exotic of some kind, where I saw 5 different species of bugs all in one go. And I think the main reason I went there was because from space I scanned it on my freighter. It's like, how come that one's got so many fauna? What's going on there? And they were nearly all bugs. If I had the time, I might see if the bugs are also the underground creatures. That would be really interesting, but it would take forever. I would do it if I wasn't disposing of this save. So that's the moon planet. That's unmapped. Must have gone right past that. No, I have been there. Oh, unmapped. It is unmapped. Gonna get a pirate any minute.
Hostile scan detected.
I feel like that is a slightly unfair advantage that PC players have. That they can hot button the scan deflector and hit it far quicker than any other player. underwater. That's always a bit weird. Not as weird as you come out of the land, obviously, but still a bit odd. Oh, got some new types. Oh, turned into spikes. Not seen that before. Are you going to do it again? Yes, you are.
Units received.
Nice. How many legs? 6 or 5? 1, 2, 5. See, now I think that's when you say you can shave off the biodome doors, but they don't look as nice. There's two things there. One, I'm pretty sure you can do it differently now, so you might be able to make it look a bit nicer. But two, why do you care? It's a stasis farm. So yeah, but then I've got a stasis farm that's all about books, but then it's just an ordinary corridor one, but it's an underwater. So yeah, maybe I'm overthinking that. I do like these new raindrops on water. I also like whiskers on kittens. But I don't like cats very much. Well, rather, they don't like me. I don't mind them. They just don't seem to like me very much. Am I seeing anything else? Any flying ground? So, well, I guess we're nowhere near ground at the moment. Another flying. Right, let's go underwater because it looks like there's some stuff underwater here. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's very easy to get attached to. I mean, I've got builds that are years old. That there's nothing even that special about them. But I don't want to part with them because they're kind of the earliest builds I did that were in something more than just a block. I've not actually seen one of these yet. I haven't really been looking for them. But we have a helmet. A helmet hermit. I don't know how many varieties there are. And I prefer my shiny one I picked up earlier. My favourite ones of these were, there were some giant nautilons in one of the deep waters, and they had actually seemingly taken over the same shells from the nautilons. So they were also gigantic. If you go back and look at my I just did a quick underwater recording just to show people that hadn't played with the new system yet what underwater was like. And in there, that you can see them in the darkness scuttling by as I swim past. They were huge hermit crabs. And we can make pets of them properly now. Yeah, I guess I can see that, the futuristic look. The best thing I can advise is maybe try scaling them down to 3/4 and see if it moves the thing slightly out, but I don't think it will. If you know how to do your scaling, and if you don't, I have videos on scaling of parts and powering them. I've scaled nearly all of the powered parts. The only one I didn't bother with was the light floor, because I was thinking it was easy enough to glitch, but I should look at that one day. Yeah, their doors and biodomes are odd. Pretty sure there were more underwater than this. No, no, there aren't. There's a ground and there's flying and there's underground. But even a relatively simple underwater biome like this can feel quite different just with the change of the fauna and these lighting effects. Especially these, I like these sunfish type fish that have always they're lit up no matter when. I was giving advice yesterday. I finished my stream and a builder was asking me how to do something, and they'd ask a couple of other builders and they'd struggled. And I was like, oh, I'm No Man's Skied out. I really don't want to focus on this right now, but describe what the problem is. And there I was, kind of drawing diagrams using my iPad. Would have been easier to just get up, go and find my computer and log in and show him, but there I was drawing these diagrams trying to explain how to do this thing in building. We got it working though. Save here before I get out of here. So have I done all of the planets in this system? Oh, that's something I've noticed. These goldfish love to fly out of the water. Just casually, look. Oh no, that isn't a goldfish, but they do. That's one of those hex things. If you fly on those, they're very disconcerting. You ride on them. They spin you around something chronic. You look a bit too small to ride where you're going. But I've watched goldfish just swimming out of the sea, floating past me and then going back into the sea again. I guess they're alien goldfish, they can get away with it. So, discoveries. Yes, that's everything in this system. We got to 20 past 4. Blimey, I've been streaming for much longer than I thought. Yeah, so all I can suggest, apart from trying to scale down to 3/4, and I don't think that will work, is keep an eye out, because there are rumours around that there is a way of just shearing off the entire side of a biodome, which might look nicer than that broken pattern, and that might do it. I've not experimented myself. I don't know how it would work, and I don't know if it's going to survive all of the patches, because sometimes these things get patched because they're kind of symptoms of other things. But just keep an eye out before you rip it all apart. Just keep an eye out for other people doing strange things with biodomes, because there might be a way of doing it. For instance, when you put windows into underwater parts, and the side disappears, that glitch, the actual position of that glitch has moved now, and we're not sure why, but it still works. But it might mean that some of them have been broken, because the glitch moved from quite low to a bit higher up, the point where the window goes in that's turned around and makes it disappear. I like this asteroid field. Feels like if I go in the middle, I'll get, all of a sudden there'll be lasers like in that episode of Star Trek. Because there's like a big void in the middle. Yeah, I sketched most of my builds and any plausible fixes. I've got 3 full books of my old builds. See, I don't do that generally. I would very rarely sketch anything out. I'll find myself sketching things and I think, no, let me just do it. And then I'll just do it. And as soon as I've got the idea and it's starting to sketch it, just sketching seems to be a chore and I just get on with the building. But I don't build that much, so... For someone who makes building videos, I haven't made any for a while, but for someone that makes build videos, I don't do anywhere near as much building as other people. Let's visit a gas giant to finish off.
Hostile ships approaching.
I don't want to get involved in a fight. I did that in the last stream.
Enemy missile inbound.
I guess start off with the giant just in case it's a bit different. Yeah, and there, as you say, there's no substitute with just experimenting and finding if there's new things you can do, because things have changed slightly, so that often means things are different. Oh, this is very watery. On my other save, I need to do the fishing all over again. I might take a note of this one. Let's see how deep it is.
Extreme temperature detected.
very, but I wouldn't expect it to be that deep. And it doesn't really need to be, really. Never seen any fauna on these things. Nope. Wrong button then. Can't see any caves. But there is one. So that's not bad depth for a gas giant. 35 units approximately, including the bit I can't quite get down to. 34 there. See, for me, as you might have guessed from if you've watched any of my older videos, for me the interesting part is the experimenting and finding the weird stuff and finding more efficient ways to do things, and the boring part is actually putting it all to use. So kind of opposites in that respect. I like the fact that I invented a few different techniques that people have all gone off and used for their builds, but I've rarely used some of them.
Extreme temperature detected.
Yeah, I'm going to take a note of this one. So I'm just going to put this straight into the Assistant for No Man's Sky app, which is unfortunately not having any updates recently. I don't know what's happened to Kurt, whether he's still around or whether he's just very busy recently. I hope he's okay. I don't know him personally, but Portal Library. So this is wrong button. Plus, there we are. So this is bird. Where were we? Bird, moon, bird. Sunrise or sunset, and the tree, and the triangle, and the rocket, scarab, triangle, tree, TP, sunset. Yes, and the name of this is Water Gas Giant. It doesn't seem to have saved it. Water Library. How odd. Oh, well, I'll take a photo and if it now. I think what it is that I like building, but I like architecture more than I like glitch building. So I like to be able to make the building that I've got in my head. So sometimes you need glitches for that, but they're not always obvious glitches. So my builds don't look like glitch builds. They're not things that you would necessarily show off as glitch builds. They're not elaborate spaceships or... I mean, a classic example is my butterfly house that you can see in the anomaly, the featured bases. That doesn't look, apart from the walkway, it doesn't look like it's particularly glitched, but anybody that glitch builds will probably see where all the glitches are. This looks very much like all other planets of its type. So one of my favourite builds is my build that I have on my main old save, which is just a very simple wooden building that overlooks my settlement, and it's not something I would necessarily show off as a build, but I love it because it's exactly the kind of architecture I was trying to achieve. This looks like a more standard single. One. Yep. That's normal, as opposed to having 6 or 7 different types of bugs wandering around it. Yeah. tilt, definitely. Always got these creatures. Not sure if I'm a big fan of these, but they're different, I guess. These seem to cluster as well, so you get more than one type of these on a planet. So we've got 3 types, I look of it, at least. Four types. Oh no, it was. Yeah, it's still there. I just didn't get the right thing. Interested to see if there's more now. An otherwise not particularly inspiring planet. Yep. Got all the ground, so that's all of them. So 4 different types of the, what are they called? See-through fauna? I don't know what it did have a name. Like Blob from the X-Men. Atmospheric. It's this slightly bluey, purpley filter that's different about these planets. Flesh ruin. So okay, so it's a cactus flesh ruinous planet. Very barren. It's not a ruinous planet at all. Is it just a low atmosphere planet? Ruined. I don't remember that name. I'll have a look at my list now, see if they've added it or if it's just one that doesn't come up very often in my lists. One of my first builds was in a cave like that, using the flora eggs on an acidic rain planet, which I fittingly named to LV42426 and build an egg colony with Hadley's Hope. Yeah, one of my first ever planets, one of my first ever more expansive builds was in a cave entrance. It was a wide open cave entrance that I tried to use classical proportions. That thing in classical proportions where you have a bigger, and then slightly smaller, and then a smaller layer as you go up on the buildings. So I was kind of bringing the ceiling down each time. Normal. Auto standard. Biomes. Yeah, low atmosphere. No, I'm not seeing it on the list. Hang on, I'm looking at the wrong time. This was cactus, wasn't it? No. Barren desert, rocky bleak, parched, abandoned, dusty, desolate, windswept. Infested terrasphere, infected, dustbowl, tainted, baked, clear, dry, gusts, icy nights, moistureless. Oh, they're the things. But yeah, ruined moon. I would have expected there to be. No, I'm not confused about what this planet even is. Ruined. Research. No, I'm not even finding it in my lists. This is new. It does sound nice. Did you keep the build? I mean, we're talking about Alien, right? The original, you may know this, I may be teaching you stuff you already know. But the original idea was that there would be more than one thing on the planet, that there would be a pyramid structure and the spaceship. And the pyramid structure was where they would get the eggs from, and where they would lower down from the top of the pyramid. And because the story of Alien is kind of inspired by H.P. Lovecraft, and at the Mountains of Madness, the pyramid was kind of based on H.P. Lovecraft's story about descending through a pyramid, which I think was his Houdini story. Oh yeah, you did say the planet changed. It's frustrating. My what's it called? Treetop walkways. The planet's changed in a way that I don't like at all now. It's still a lush planet, but the sky's the wrong color, the water's the wrong color. It was like a perfect Earth-like, and now it's just not right. And it took that combination of it had diplos, it was an Earth-like, it had what looked like ancient volcanoes, and it had beaches. That combination, I'm never going to find that exact combination again, so it's quite disappointing that I just don't have anywhere else to put that build. I've got one I haven't visited, and then I'd probably end the stream off, I think. Go out a bit further and work it out. Put that one down there. Oh, I just had it. I'm gonna have to use the mouse, I think, on this one. Oh, I just had it a minute ago. It's not going to scan again now. Oh, just as I'm moving away, but I can't see what it says quick enough. I mean, most of my planets have been untouched. Yes, here's that one. Yes, I managed to hold on to an egg for the hologram, so I'll probably rebuild it at some point, but the planet has to fit the bill before acidic rain, surface mist, fog, and caves have to look... Yeah, and that's the thing, is finding that perfect combination. So when you find that planet, the first one you find, like I was lucky, the first Diplo planet I ever found, larger Diplo planet I ever found, had nice tall trees that I liked. So I built a treetop canopy walkway system, straight walkways at that point, because I hadn't learned how to do the sag. But the planet was wiped out in Origins. It just completely changed. Diplos obviously went extinct in Origins. And I didn't think I was ever going to find anything quite like it again. And then when I found a perfect Earth-like planet that had storms, but it didn't matter. Had found a perfect Earth-like planet that also had Diplos. That they weren't quite as nice Diplos. They weren't quite as tall Diplos, but it was similar enough themed that I figured it really is stopping abruptly. I don't know what's going on here. Maybe it's a gravity anomaly. Sorry, I was saying, so I didn't think I would find the perfect planet for it. But I did in the end. I did find something that, okay, I can put these here instead. And in the end, it worked out as a nicer planet for the build. But you have to be quite lucky, because the original build is based on the planet, and planets are much more unique than people give them credit for. I do like these. They do look really quite nice. They're not new. Well, I think they might be newer. I think they're a really interesting, more modern asset. What if we can find these? Give honey when you mine them, even though it doesn't say. Yep, sticky honey. And often, if you look around, it can take a while. There's an asset that not many people have ever seen because they just haven't looked for it because they don't know it's there. Which is one with lots of little tiny insects. Let's see if I can find one just for completion's sake. They're usually slightly taller. You can't tell until you get quite close. Like my joypad just needs a bit of a clean. I can feel the rim is a little bit grubby. I'm starting to notice it in one little patch. Any jetpack recharge then. These can be very hard to spot. Might have to start scanning them to cancel out the ones I've seen. I'm never going to think it's that one anyway. That's different. But it's not the one. Once spent about an hour looking for one of these once. I'm not obsessed with this game at all. Hello, Mr. Pontifex. Thanks for this stream. I was able to max out my Wraith last night in short order. Excellent. That was the point. For those that were wanting to do that, glad you found it worked. I presume you just found your own systems rather than just finding the ones that I went to. Oh, here was it. I found it. Haha. Now, this is quite rare. As you saw, it took me a while to find. If you're not looking for it and don't know they exist, the insect size can be different. But as you can see, the insects are really interesting. It's like the only asset that I know that has some form of creature. And they're really not that common. But every planet you land on that's one of these honeycomb planets, every planet I've landed on that's one of these honeycomb planets, I've managed to find one. So they're not unheard of. You can find them. really like them. I can just sit and stare at them. Don't know what it is about them. But they're a little bit like the bugs in the swarms, but they're not scannable. And they can be tiny. These are actually quite large compared to the other ones I've seen. So it's kind of a fauna and mineral all in one. I'm really pleased I found that in reasonably short order. For those that have just joined, I am only... Oh, look, I've still got this silly thing. Buy for 92,214. But it is in cash now, so they've sorted that out at least. It was in nanites before. So, okay, so maybe it's not quite so weird. Yeah, I'm playing on a save that is broken. If you look on the bottom right hand corner, Sentinel alert high, settlement is under attack, hunt and destroy Sentinel forces, unknown remaining. And I'm getting to the point where I'm just thinking I might just ditch this save, because I had a save from before Interstellar Multitudes, and that's the one I took through Interstellar Multitudes in my video the other day. And it's the only thing that's missing really is the fishing, which I've got to do again, which is annoying, but I can just do that slowly. Now that I've done it properly, I can just take my time this time. But one of the things I want to do is I want to experiment, because this is a disposable save now. I want to experiment with the neutron cannon, because the X-class module neutron cannon have now been buffed, and I want to see what we can get out of them. And so I might actually do a glitch version of this on this save that I'm ultimately going to delete anyway, and just show people how to glitch these to get the best modules possible. But he didn't have any, so I can't use those from him. I don't have to go way back there. Okay, I'm going to save off here, and I'm going to say goodbye. So we visited quite a few purple systems. I did see some quite nice planets. I didn't see really wide variation on the planets, but one of the things I really like about this system is the water on that gas giant. So I'll probably be coming back here, or I'll park here and switch my other save to it. But apart from that, there have been some interesting things looking at. The very first planet that we were on right at the beginning, I do like that feel of that. It does show that the purple systems might have some quite promising planets if we really search for them. Other than that, I have been Pharaoh, and travel well, and goodbye for now.